Hello and welcome to a review of Volvo's best-selling car. No, it's not a 240 but a refreshed XC60. Surprised? And I'm not even referring to the fact that this is the new Volvo bestseller. I'm surprised there's a facelift here somewhere. Anyway, let's see what's new. I compared the Volvo XC60 against the Range Rover Velar. Channel members can watch this review early and without ads.
Volvo XC60 sales recently surpassed 2.7 million units. What took the 240 model nearly 20 years, the XC60 achieved in roughly the same amount of time. And that's with production and sales in China. But it looks like the second generation XC60 will remain in production for a few more years, so we'll definitely hear about another record. What's changed? Virtually nothing on the outside. Under the bonnet, it's a petrol engine called B5, which stands for a 2-liter turbo petrol with 250 horsepower and a mild hybrid. On paper, the engine now has 10 Nm more torque, that's 360 Nm in total, and the car should have marginally better fuel economy, which is still terrible, and I'll get to it in a moment. Fortunately, I found some changes in the cockpit, and we'll focus on those.
But before I get behind the wheel, I'll help you save €1,100 by simply not ordering those side steps. I'm guessing whoever configured this car decided the Black Edition model needed an accent of some sort and came up with the idea of adding these satin finish steps. However, they only make getting in and out more difficult, being too narrow to be useful and too wide to be easily avoided. This car has the optional air suspension, which can be set to squat for comfortable access, but even then those side steps are a nuisance, unless you're at least 6 feet tall, and I'm not.
There are two changes inside. Firstly, someone at Volvo finally realized that the XC60 is almost as old as the iPhone, but in the meantime the iPhone has grown from 11 to 16 centimeters, and perhaps it would also be worthwhile to design a larger wireless charger. So we got a larger one, and after a few hours it even started working, regardless of the infotainment settings. The infotainment system initially played tricks on me and wouldn't turn on the display, but after a few attempts at turning the car on and off again, the problem disappeared. The infotainment system is Android Automotive. The good news is that I can finally install my favorite podcast app on it, something I haven't been able to do in any Android Automotive model since 2022.
But software can be updated regardless of the car and model. The second noticeable change Volvo introduced in the XC60 is the display this time protrudes from the dashboard rather than being integrated into it. This is also the case in the XC90, which was refreshed a few months earlier. I assume that the screen, which is now stuck to the dash, gives the designers more freedom when creating new versions of the cockpit. I have one request though: make the buttons on the steering wheel a bit more legible. Okay, and one more thing. Please, 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 someone change the seat adjustment controls. Beside the standard back and forth, up and down controls, additional settings are displayed on the screen, and then you have to assign the movement of a physical switch to the setting of what you want to change here on the screen. I have no words to describe my frustration with this solution that would not get this video demonetized.
The door pockets are okay, the cup holders are okay, storage under the armrest is small, inside are USB-C ports should you need to launch Android Auto or Apple CarPlay from your phone. The glove box is large though.
Volvo's engine lineup has been shrinking for years. Under the bonnet, there is only a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. Currently, it's the B5 petrol engine with all-wheel drive and a mild hybrid, producing 250 horsepower. In some markets, a 300 horsepower B6 version may also be available. There is a bit more choice with the plug-in hybrids, the T6 and the T8. The price difference is negligible, so I imagine some buyers will probably choose 455 instead of 350 horsepower. The car I'm reviewing today is the 250 horsepower B5. You'd be tempted to say it's the sensible choice, but do you really want to sacrifice driving comfort for the price of a low-end Rolex? Let me explain. The B5 engine sounds like a diesel. I had to check the sticker by the fuel filler and confirm in the specification that this is indeed a petrol engine. Secondly, this engine is a gas guzzler. I experienced it also a few months ago when I was reviewing the XC90 with the same engine. I consider getting below 10 liters per 100 kilometers in the combined cycle a success. Thirdly, and this will likely be the main reason why customers will grit their teeth and accept a slightly higher lease payment, in normal use, this engine is terribly sluggish, and that's before we get to ISA. The only way to change the way the engine and gearbox react is to switch to manual mode. I feel like Volvo then turns off its eco nannies and lets the driver do whatever they want. Then the XC60 handles almost as well as a BMW X3 and definitely better than an Audi Q5.
Performance. The claimed time from 0 to 100 km per hour is 6.9 seconds. The mild hybrid variant doesn't have a sport mode. Well, actually it does, but we'll get to that in a moment. There is only a normal and off-road mode. In normal mode, I got to 100 km per hour in over 8 seconds. Now, on the gear lever, there's an M mode, which also turns out to be the sport mode. I improved the acceleration time by half a second, but that's still more than 0.7 seconds above what manufacturer claims.
In normal mode with transmission set to automatic, you also have to deal with ISA. As a reminder, ISA is a semi-intelligent speed assist system that under normal circumstances pings and bongs at you every time you exceed the speed limit. Like many bureaucratic ideas, ISA makes sense in principle. However, in reality, it's just another feature that old geezers who remember the days when you could buy a new Volvo 240 from a dealership like to complain about. Those were the days when we died like real men crashing into trees, not like today's youth, because they feel they're in a slightly bad mood.
ISA works based on traffic sign recognition and data stored in the navigation system. The problem is that both of these solutions are flawed, as the system sometimes detects speed limit on a parallel road, or the road authorities don't always update speed restriction data in a timely manner, for example, after roadworks. Therefore, one of the most important factors when choosing a car these days is the ease with which ISA can be disabled. Volvo has a potential advantage here, as it is perhaps the only brand to offer the option of replacing the beeper with haptic feedback from the accelerator pedal.
Great! When I reach the maximum speed limit allowed in a given zone, the car stops accelerating. I have to press the accelerator harder to overcome this resistance, and in the plug-in hybrid it works great, and in the B5 overcoming the resistance can cause a downshift and unnecessary jerk. Merging can be challenging. Sometimes it's just easier to go a bit faster than everyone else to merge, but the car prevents me from going faster, so I have to step on it, and suddenly I'm becoming the jerk that's cutting in front of everyone else at the last moment, engine revving and stuff. I'm sure emissions go through the roof, but in WLTP testing everything is smooth as silk. Volvo doesn't let you turn ISA off. You can either permanently select a beeping sound or haptic feedback from the accelerator pedal. Which one would you choose? Because I'd take the BMW X3. Well, at least the driver assist features work well. I feel everything has been recalibrated since the last time I drove the XC60, and this time there are no more awkward situations where the car would start braking in most inappropriate moments. And something the Chinese brands haven't figured out yet, driver aids are supposed to help rather than distract. If a car is supposed to keep me in my lane, it should do it smoothly, not yank the steering wheel out of my hands.
Before the facelift, I complained about visibility. Nothing has changed here, except maybe perspective. I've driven so many SUVs with poor visibility in recent months that the Volvo XC60 now feels okay by comparison. And thanks to the vertical display orientation, Volvo is one of the brands with the best 360-degree camera view. And finally, my diagonal approach all-wheel drive test. I stop halfway up this incline with wheels on the diagonal with limited traction, and then I try to get going again. In normal mode, even the approach is problematic because the traction control is overzealous. Then the system needs a bit of time to figure out what's going on to get the car up the incline. I suspect I'd achieve more with traction control turned off, but to the best of my knowledge, Volvo doesn't let you turn it off in any of the modes. Ground clearance, depending on suspension and wheel options, is between 20 and 21 centimeters. In off-road mode, it rises, but Volvo doesn't say by how much. In off-road mode, the car copes better, but the XC60 wouldn't be my pick for adventures off the beaten path. The Volvo XC60 B5 can tow up to 2.4 tons. No changes in the rear, decent legroom and headroom. There are 2 additional climate control zones in the rear. There are also 2 USB-C ports. A high tunnel runs down the center, so the middle seat is only for people you really don't like. ISOFIX anchor points are available on the rear seats, but not in the front passenger seat. The rear backrest splits 40-60, which, in my opinion, is an unnecessary cost-cutting measure in this segment. Door pockets are still tight. Boot capacity for the mild hybrid is 483 liters above the floor in 5-seat configuration and 1410 liters in 2-seat configuration. The plug-in hybrid boot is a dozen or so liters smaller. According to my measurements, Volvo's figures are accurate. As in the pre-facelift model, also here the boot floor is at a slight angle and there is about 3 centimeters difference between the sill and the backrest of the second row seats. Be careful when opening the boot to avoid anything rolling out. Prices for the second facelift Volvo XC60 start at €50,390. 2 years ago it was €52,200, so bearing in mind what's happening on the car market these days, one could say the prices haven't really changed. This test car with options costs €75,826.
Volvo decided to take it easy with the facelift. If you expect bleeding-edge tech from your car, look at the German competition. But if you like your current Volvo XC60, but your lease is up, the new one is more of the same. And how do you like the refreshed Volvo XC60, or perhaps your Volvo XC60? Whatever. Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.